News of the day.
Mr. Zimmerman, have you made a decision as to whether or not you want to testify in this case?
With values that never die.
There are certainly a lot of controversies or scandals brewing right now when it comes to the Obama administration.
This is American Heartland with Dr. Grace.
Dealing with the federal government is not always high-tech, and it's not always user-friendly.
The stories that matter.
This is a massive escalation in the tension here in Egypt.
The issues that count.
I don't know why the media tries to make this into a sensation. We have never hidden the fact that we supply Syria with weapons.
This is American Heartland with Dr. Grace.
He's got the red, white, blue flying high on the farm. Semper Fi tattooed on his left arm. Spend a little more in the store for a tag in the back of says.
Welcome to American Heartland with Dr. Grace. I am the editor of Politics and Culture at worldtribune.com. I don't know about you, but I am having a great summer. Nothing puts a smile on my face more than when I see corruption being prosecuted, essentially, when I see corruption being exposed, when I see crooks being brought to justice. What we are all witnessing right before our very eyes is slippery Hillary getting caught up in a web of her own lies, in destruction of her own making. And it really is the end of Hillary Clinton's prospects to win the Democratic nomination and even a general election. Why do I say that? Huge developments this week. She was forced to turn over her server after it has been confirmed that 2 out of a sampling of emails that were looked at very carefully were labeled as top secret. There were 4 emails in a batch of 4,000 that were suspect, that were essentially viewed as classified information that was misused. It should not have been where it was, which is on Hillary Clinton's private server and being exchanged with her own email account rather than a government server and a government email. What Hillary Clinton did by setting up her own private server and using her own private email was essentially illegal. There is no getting around that. It is a crime to remove classified documents out of their proper location. It is also a crime to delete information contained on a server after those documents have been requested by Congress. So there's 2 crimes that she's clearly committed. One is the removal of documents, the inability to protect them as she's required to do by law. And the other is the actual destruction of evidence demanded by Congress. The FBI is investigating her. And it looks like, from what we're hearing, they are moving forward. It's a criminal case, no matter what the Clinton campaign says. And Hillary Clinton cannot spin her way out of this one. You remember how she tried to reset the public mood after the Clinton email scandal originally broke. She tried to reset it with this joke. Listen to this.
I am all about new beginnings. A new grandchild, another new hairstyle, a new email account. Why not a new relationship with the press? So here goes. No more secrecy. No more zone of privacy. After all, what good did that do me?
She thought she would be able to laugh the scandal away. Well, she's not laughing now. You remember that she had said in March that, there was the only emails that were deleted were the private ones, and that the server itself would remain private because there was no reason for any further investigation. Roll that clip, Brittany.
We were asking that any email be identified and preserved that could potentially be federal records. And that's exactly what we did. And we went, as I said, beyond that. and the process produced over 30,000, work emails. And I think that we have more than met the request from the State Department. The server contains personal communications from my husband and me, and I believe I have met all of my responsibilities, and the server will remain private, and I think that the State Department will be able, over time, to release all of the records that were provided.
Well, no matter how she has tried to put a lid on this scandal, she has not succeeded. The server is going to be thoroughly investigated. The FBI is taking it to Quantico. And there are a lot of professionals who say that even deleted emails can possibly be retrieved. So it remains to be seen the full extent of the crimes that she tried to conceal. Nonetheless, there's no doubt about it, regardless of what happens with the criminal aspect of this story, the political aspect is really damaging for her. It is impossible for her to recover from this. All the Republicans will have to say again and again is that she cannot be trusted to hold any other key office in the land because she was irresponsible in her conduct. She failed to protect documents that are vital to America's national security. It's game, set, and match. She is politically done. Judge Napolitano said right from the start, he's a frequent guest commentator on Fox News, that Hillary Clinton was likely to end up in the big house. And he has been right insofar as this has escalated throughout the months since this story broke. The story has only escalated, and the criminal implication, her criminal jeopardy, has increased. You know, another thing that she did, which was absolutely astonishing, was that she allowed her attorney to have a thumb drive of so many of these so-called documents. I mean, that is also a crime. He didn't have a clearance, a security clearance, to be able to have in his possession those documents. This is not just a little bit worse than what General Petraeus did. This is 1,000 times worse than what General Petraeus did. And Judge Napolitano has rightly said, this is a nightmare for her.
They have the 33,000 emails that she destroyed, some of which showed up in Sidney Blumenthal's production to the committee. Exactly what you just said. This is her worst political nightmare and a grave legal problem.
Let me just quick follow-up on the word destroyed. If she did destroy it, is that a problem?
If she destroyed or tampered with the server, yes, that's obstruction of justice. If she thought she deleted those 33,000 and they passed through that server, the FBI tells me they're still in there and they can extract them.
Judge, your prediction.
There are serious professionals in the FBI and in the Justice Department who are neither Republicans nor Democrats and who want to see the law enforced, and they will pursue this.
Before the election?
Before the election.
Will the Attorney General stop that from coming out because she's in charge?
She's a Barack Obama appointee, but she's far less political than her predecessor, Mr. Holder.
And the political dynamics have changed. Whereas before, it would have been in Barack Obama's interest to protect Hillary Clinton when she was still working for the administration. Now, it's in his interest to throw her under the bus so that somebody like Joe Biden can step into the race, or somebody who's much more on his ideological wavelength, like Senator Elizabeth Warren. How did Hillary Clinton make such a colossal mistake? Essentially, she thought that nobody would ever discover what she did. She did not see this coming. Instead, as a result of the death of 4 Americans, which led to a Benghazi committee, there was so much pressure put on her to produce documents. And the more she stalled, the more suspicious everybody became. And that led to lawsuits under the Freedom of Information Act. And that got the courts involved. And essentially, it has snowballed into not just a political disaster, But now she faces the specter of actually ending up in jail. She's not going to end up in the White House. She may likely end up in the big house. If the legal system proceeds as it should, that is exactly where she belongs. And from a political point of view, the damage done, not just by the story, but by the repeated lies, it's almost impossible to recover from this. Her numbers on the issue of whether or not she is trustworthy are completely upside down. And all the Republicans will have to do, even if they don't want to get into the actual merits of the case, they will just have to play clips of her saying different things. Initially, at that press conference in March, she had said that there was absolutely no classified information that passed through her email account or the server. Absolutely not. And then shortly thereafter, she was asked and she said, well, it wasn't actually classified at the time. When it was obvious that there was classified material, you know what? It wasn't actually classified at the time. And she said she wasn't going to give over her server, and then she was forced to give it over. Essentially, we have seen the undoing of Hillary Clinton, and it is impossible to recover from this. The web is going to spread even further, now encompassing her staff. Her assistant, Uma Abedin, is coming under the spotlight. Her emails are going to be looked at, and this web is going to spread. If other people are in criminal jeopardy, you can bet your bottom dollar that it's not going to be that hard for the FBI to put the squeeze on a couple, and then they're going to start singing like canaries. In other words, all of Hillary's lies, all of her deception, all of her maneuvering, all of her criminal conduct is at last being exposed. This is Dr. Grace, the editor of Politics and Culture at WorldTribune.com, upholding values that will never die.
I got a girl crush. Hate to admit it, but I got a heart rush. It's slowing down.
This is American Heartland with Dr. Grace. This is American Heartland with Dr. Grace.
It's so sad to think about the good times, you and I. 'Cause baby, now we got bad blood. You know it used to be bad.
Welcome back. There has been a lot of bad blood this week, and I'm not talking about Donald Trump's feud with Fox News. After the debates, he went on the airwaves saying that he had been unfairly treated, and by the time everything was said and done, Roger Ailes called him and they struck a truce, and everybody's on speaking terms and good terms once again. You know where the bad blood really is emanating from this week? There is a bitter, nasty feud going on between Donald Trump and Rand Paul, Senator Rand Paul. You will recall at the debates, he was the most vociferous critic of Donald Trump. And this week, that continues. You will not believe the following ad that Rand Paul has sponsored. Listen to how he goes after the Donald.
In many cases, I probably identify more as a Democrat. I've been around for a long time, and it just seems that the economy does better under the Democrats than the Republicans. But if you go back, I mean, it just seems that the economy does better under the Democrats.
Healthcare.
The liberal on healthcare, we have to take care of people that are sick.
Universal health coverage.
I love universal. Hillary Clinton, I think, is a terrific woman. I mean, I'm a little biased because I've known her for years. I live in New York, she lives in New York, and I've known her and her husband for years, and I really like them both a lot. I think she really works hard, and I think she does a good job, and I like her. She's a really good person and woman.
It depends upon what.
You know, every time I hear those clips that he uttered, I wince. I don't know about you, but I don't know how you can talk your way out of that. The Dems do better on the economy, he says. That is some damaging stuff that Senator Rand Paul has found. What are the Democrats going to do with that soundbite on the campaign trail? It shows that we do have to ask Donald Trump a lot of tough questions, and not just how and when he changed his party affiliation from Democrat to Republican, Independent. He's kind of been all over the map, but also what are his core values? What is his core governing philosophy? If he says that on the whole, Dems do a better job on the economy, he's not a conservative, not by any stretch of the imagination. His line on universal health care, it's very damaging. That has long been a goal of the left, not of the right. Now, he can well say that Obamacare is a disaster, and he has put forward some free market principles in terms of what he would do to change. What's he going to replace Obamacare with? He has said, health savings account, and he would want to eliminate the restrictions placed by insurance companies on just being able to offer services in a given state. So he would erase those state boundaries so that there can be free competition. So he's got some free market ideas. But he's still going to have to explain, why did he ever support universal health care? That is a big government philosophy. And how much of that big government philosophy does he still hold? But in that ad, the statements that really kill me, they're like a dagger to my stomach every time I hear them. He says that he loves Hillary, that he likes Bill and Hillary together, that he knows them well, and that Hillary has generally done a good job. How is he going to walk that back? This, to me, shows that he does not have a cohesive governing philosophy and that his judgment is very poor. His basic judgment is really bad. Bill and Hillary Clinton have been the most corrupt political leaders of our lifetime. How can he explain that he gave them such public praise? And Rand Paul didn't just stop with this ad. In Iowa, he started to make fun of him, started to make fun of the language that he uses, basically saying Donald Trump doesn't have the temperament to be commander-in-chief. Roll it, Brittany.
I'm kind of foolish, all right? I'm all for levity, I'm all for humor, but I think reality and TV and the presidential election ought to be separate. So we have now people up there who say such profound things as, you're stupid. You're fired. You're a pig. You look terrible. You only have half a brain. And then when you respond with an argument, it's like, you're stupid. Or my favorite is, the reason I tell women they're ugly is because I'm so good looking. Everybody knows I'm good looking, right? Or my other one is, I must be smart. I'm rich. I'm rich, I gotta be smart, right? But the thing is, we have to have an argument in our country. We have to have a discussion. I want to know, does he want government to be bigger or smaller? Does he want taxes to be higher or lower?
Basically, Rand Paul is saying Donald Trump is not ready for prime time. Now, so much of the public discussion has been consumed by whether or not the media is treating Donald Trump fairly. And I said last week, no, the media is not treating Donald Trump fairly. So he's got a point in that regard. But once we get past that issue and we start to ask us the question, we start to ask the hard questions, where does Donald Trump stand on the key issues? What we see is, what is most damaging to him is not any of these sideshows that we've been talking about. What he said about Megyn Kelly, what Megyn Kelly said about him, what he said about John McCain and what John McCain has said about him, all of these are sideshows. What is most disturbing about Donald Trump is that he doesn't have policy positions yet. He's actually shifting ground from day to day. And you can see when you try to be fair to him, as Sean Hannity recently was. And let me just give this guy a fair, sympathetic interview. It was a 2-part series. And it is clear as day that Donald Trump doesn't have policy positions that are fleshed out just yet. And he can't even stay on track. You ask one question, and he answers 10 different questions. Listen to this.
I would use the greatest minds. I know the best negotiators. I'm in New York. I know the good ones, the bad ones. I always say, I know the ones that are no good that people think are good. I know people that you never heard of that are better than all of them. I would put people in charge of these massive economic machines.
And you'd listen to them. They come into the Oval Office and they'd say, Donald, I know you want a flat tax. I know you want to save Social Security. I know you want to look out for the poor and reduce the debt. The numbers don't add up. Because those are all things you've talked about.
Our jobs are being taken by everybody. Think of it. We don't make good deals anymore. We have incompetent people, probably stupid, but incompetent people. They're making deals. I look at Japan, and I see Carolyn Kennedy, who's a very nice person. You know why I say she's nice? Because my daughter thinks she's nice, Ivanka. Anybody that Ivanka likes, I like. But that doesn't mean I want her as our chief trade negotiator. She was shocked that she got the job. She was on 60 Minutes, and she went and she said, I'd like to work for the administration. Would you like to be ambassador to Japan? She goes, really? That was the response. She's now in charge. I mean, essentially, as the ambassador, she's really in charge. Because for some reason, that particular ambassadorship, very important, having to do with trade. They're killing us. Japan is killing us. And by the way, they have a great leader now, Abe. And Abe is cutting the hell out of their currency. Cutting. And they're back. Japan is back. Look what happened today. Today, front page of the Wall Street Journal, China devalues its currency big league. You know why? Because they have no fear of us. They're killing us.
So one question leads us to Caroline Kennedy, to Japan, to Japan's policy, to China. He doesn't stick to the point. He meanders. And why does he do it? Well, look, he's clearly charming. He's clearly engaging. He's clearly has a lot of stories. But he's also dodging. He's a dodger. He's not as forthright, as honest in the political sense, right? I have a position, I'm going to stick to it, as people are making him out to be. He's dodging questions. And you can hear very clearly in this next exchange when Sean Hannity asks him exactly, identify your tax policy. First, he had said he was for a flat tax. Now, in this interview, he's not for it. And Hannity presses him, give me some numbers. You'll see Donald Trump doesn't have any.
Let me go to specifics on the economy. You want to lower the tax. You want to implement a flat tax.
No.
I thought you liked the flat tax. I read in a couple interviews.
The problem with the flat tax is it's sort of the same. I actually believe that people, as they make more and more money, can pay a higher percentage, okay?
How high?
To be honest.
What's the cap?
We will set the cap. I want to have a cap so we have a lot of business, a lot more activity. I want to get rid of all this deficit. We're losing $600-700 billion. We're going to be losing. And by the way, when Obamacare kicks in, we're going to be losing $1.3 trillion, $1.4 trillion a year. We can't do that. We're going to be a grease on steroids. Here's what I want to do. I want to simplify the tax code. I want to cut taxes, but I want to simplify the tax code. I want to make it great for the middle class. The middle class is being killed. I want to put H&R Block, it's an ambition of mine, to put H&R Block out of business. When a person has a simple tax return, they have a job, and they can't even figure out, when they look at this complicated form, they can't figure out what to pay. And you know what? I have guys that are friends of mine. They make a fortune. They're hedge fund guys. They move around paper. Look, at least I build things. I put people to... These guys move around paper. And half the time it's luck more than talent, okay? They pay peanuts, okay? I want to make it so the middle class... I want to lower taxes, but I want to make it so the middle class benefits.
Do you believe in supply-side economics in as much as you reduce taxes on everybody, including the wealthy, and that a rising tide lifts all boats?
I don't fully believe in it, but there is something to it. I don't fully. You know, I've studied it.
But you don't want a flat tax. You had said that.
I don't like where everybody's paying the same.
Do you like a fair tax?
If I make $1 billion and somebody else is making $100 and he's paying $10 and I'm paying, to me, I don't know. I like somewhat of a graduation. What you have now is a system that's too complicated. The easiest thing to do is make that system uncomplicated and make it really good. Make it really good. And, you know, as far as the IRS, people say, let's get rid of the IRS. Somebody's got to collect the money.
You know what? Did you hear what I heard? No specifics and jumping from topic to topic to topic. In other words, he has not yet flushed out his tax policy. He was also asked, who are you going to hire? And he said, you know what? My daughter and my kids. In other words, no clear ideology, no specifics, and employ family. Donald Trump, you think you're going to be able to have one giant house party in the White House? You won't. Not after the media gets through with asking you a lot of tough questions.
If you want to be a homebody, we're going to have a house party.
The stories that matter, the issues that count. This is American Heartland with Dr. Grace. The stories that matter, the issues that count. This is American Heartland with Dr. Grace.
Who would have thought that this is the direction we would go in? As Hillary Clinton's numbers drop like a stone, more and more there is a new name that is on the lips of Democrats. It is Joe Biden. There is increasing pressure on Joe Biden to jump into the race. Hillary's poll numbers have gone from a high amongst Democrats at 75%, now dropping into the 50s. She's got 50s or so percent support among her own party members. And we've seen Bernie Sanders, the socialist, rising and rising in the numbers. He was far behind for months, and suddenly he has been able to amass thousands of people at his rallies. His rallies have been so packed with individuals that they've had to move venues. He has all of the enthusiasm on his side, and yet Democratic strategists are really worried because Bernie Sanders is not a viable winning candidate. His positions are just too far to the left. He will be clobbered in a general election. That is universally known within the Democratic Party. Yet Bernie Sanders has captured the imagination of the progressives. Who would have ever thought that somebody who looks like him would be able to do so well? Remember, this is the party that champions minorities. This is the party that champions blacks and Hispanics and women. And yet you have an old white guy who is the voice of the progressives. He is appealing, so many people say, because he is authentic. And he doesn't mince his words. He has taken a stand on all of the key issues. He's accessible to the press and to the people. In other words, he is everything that Hillary Clinton is not. She has appeared to be haughty and arrogant and aloof and rich and for the rich. All the things that Democrats generally despise. Instead, Bernie Sanders has been forthright, and he's even called Hillary Clinton out on her positions. He said many times, how could she not have a stand? How could she be dodging on key questions like trade, like the Keystone Pipeline, like the Iran deal? He has exposed her to be a shifty politician, somebody that, despite all her problems, remember, Hillary's numbers were going down regardless of the server scandal and the email scandal. Her numbers were going down based on her performance as a candidate. Her candidacy began to bleed in the summer, last summer, during that book tour, in which she seemed to fumble when she was asked basic questions, in which she was fumbling even when she was presenting trying to present a homey biography of herself. You all recall, no doubt, the comment that she and Bill left the White House broke, which garnered universal laughter. So Hillary Clinton's candidacy has been in trouble long before it has been immersed in scandal. And Bernie, who really is the anti-Hillary, has taken advantage of it. So much so that this week, the big breaking news is that he has the lead over Hillary Clinton in New Hampshire. In New Hampshire, Bernie Sanders currently leads, and he leads beyond the margin of error. So what does this mean? You put the whole piece of the puzzle, you put the puzzle together, you put all these pieces together, and what do we get? We have a woman that is embroiled in legal trouble at the same time that she is appearing to be a very flawed and weak candidate. So the Democrats are in full panic, and they are looking for an alternative. They put all their eggs in one basket, and that basket is now rotten. It's leaking. It's got a hole in the middle of it. It cannot be sustained. The latest news is Joe Biden had met with some key fundraisers to see could he possibly jump in at this late stage of the game. Also, the latest news is that throughout this weekend, he is now reaching out to allies and to family members, political allies. So this now is out there. It's in the press. They are now leaking to the press that Biden is thinking of jumping in. He's reaching out to family members and to political allies to do what? To ask them, can he win should he jump in? Can he succeed? Is it too late? Does he have enough time? Now, one of the problems that the Democrats face is this. If Hillary Clinton remains in the race, she is likely to get a certain portion of the Democrat establishment vote. And Biden would be competing for that same vote, the vote of the Democratic establishment. So she would be competing with Biden for the same piece of the pie. And Bernie would still hold on to the progressives, the diehard progressives who adore him. And so Biden is really asking this question. If he jumps in, can he win a three-way race? And I think, too, what's going on behind the scenes is how much pressure can they put on Hillary Clinton to actually just step aside? Because a Democratic candidate like Biden, who will jump into this, doesn't want to see the establishment vote split between himself and Hillary. So the best case scenario for him would be if he jumps in and Hillary Clinton would step out. And that's not as improbable a scenario as you might think. In fact, this week, you had somebody like Donald Trump on WRKO saying she really should just drop out of the race. Not only should she be prosecuted, but she should simply step aside. And that chorus might be so loud soon within the Democratic Party, not within Republicans and Tea Party folks, but actually within the Democratic Party. That chorus may soon be so loud that she may be forced out. And she would come up with some kind of a statement saying that due to these so-called distractions and investigations, it's not good for the party, and for the good of the party, it's better that she handles these legal challenges on her own. And then she would try to swim out of these problems, basically out of the public limelight for a while. So what's going on behind the scenes is Biden is looking to see, does he have enough time? Can he put together an effective campaign? Can he raise the money? And also, is there going to be enough support for him that he can either steal the establishment vote in a big way, take it from her, or, better yet, force her out altogether? And Democratic Party leaders are now making that calculation. they're crafting a strategy. And one of the key questions is this. Since the FBI has Hillary Clinton's email server, and they're going to be looking into it, well, how long will it take? How long will that take? Is that going to go on even beyond the election, or will there be information revealed between now and Election Day? Either the primaries or the general. So they're going to be weighing whether or not the scandal is so huge that it's going to knock her out altogether at some point, or can they ride out the storm as a party? Can they ride it out the way the Clintons have ridden out so many storms before? The problem they face in this particular scandal is they cannot blame the right wing for it. If you consider how have the Clintons always been able to wiggle out of a scandal, it's because they're able to say that one partisan group of the country, both a political party and the right-wing media, one partisan group is out to get them. That's how they sailed through much of the Monica Lewinsky scandal. Even though Bill Clinton was impeached in the House, he was not ultimately convicted in the Senate. That's how Hillary Clinton was able to rehabilitate herself. And it wasn't just that scandal. It was all the other scandals before, Travelgate and Whitewater and so on. And most recently, the Clinton Foundation scandal. You would think that a scandal of that magnitude, where a private foundation was defying the rules that the Obama administration had set for how Hillary Clinton, as Secretary of State, should conduct herself while as Secretary of State, how she should conduct herself and how the foundation should conduct itself. You would think that a scandal like that would have brought her down. You would think that the book Clinton Cash would have brought her down completely and utterly, because it was shown that clearly there was a conflict of interest between her role as Secretary of State and what the Clinton Foundation was doing. But no, that wasn't the case. And why wasn't it the case? Because for the most part, the Clinton campaign is able to present these attacks as partisan, as a vindictive Republican Party that is actually really against the ideology of the Democrats. And that's what's behind all of these attacks, that they are partisan, not just because they're partisan from a personal point of view, but they are partisan attacks on her and her husband because of what they stand for. So they present themselves as the champion of the people, the champion of entitlement programs, the champion of minorities, against a vicious group of right-wingers who are prepared to use any and all dirty tactics. And that narrative so works for them. That's why when you do many of these man in the street questionnaires, right? People will say, well, why do you like Hillary Clinton? What has she achieved? There is ignorance out there about her. They don't know what she has achieved. But what they perceive is, they believe that she's somehow on the side of the people. And that narrative has stuck. And it has stuck to the point that it drowns out even when you have legitimate issues that are raised, whether they be Whitewater or Travelgate during the Clinton years or the Clinton Foundation most recently with Hillary Clinton. But this scandal is different. The Clintons can't say it's the Republicans who are doing it. You know, Hillary Clinton was able to ride out so much of Benghazi. She was able to still have very strong poll numbers amongst Democrats, even while Benghazi raged and Trey Gowdy set up his committee and trying to press that issue forward and keep it in the public eye. It didn't affect her numbers. Why? Again, because she was able to present it as coming from a Republican witch hunt. But now, Hillary cannot do that because it's not a Republican witch hunt. It has gone far beyond that. It was two inspectors generals who raised the issue, elevated it. And now the FBI is involved. and the Attorney General is involved, a black Attorney General. In other words, the roar against her, the outrage against her, is coming from our criminal investigative team in this country. And the drumbeat against her is also coming from some fellow Democrats, even fellow Democratic analysts like Ron Fournier, who has been pounding away. And you're seeing other, like Rachel Maddow and Chuck Todd from the liberal media establishment, expressing their displeasure with her, with elements of her campaign. So what Biden needs to weigh for himself this weekend as he ponders it, he's really got to make a calculation. Is Hillary truly finished? As I'm saying today that she is. And if she is truly finished, can I jump in? Will I be able at this late stage to defeat Bernie Sanders? If I were advising Joe Biden, I would be saying, of course you can still jump in. Of course you'll be able to defeat Bernie Sanders. And to the other question that must be percolating in his mind is, what about Hillary Clinton's supporters? Will they come my way? And that is where he is going to have to strategize on how to win over the Democratic female vote and then the Democratic vote in the general, the women's vote in the general election. How will he be able to do that if Hillary goes down? I would say, of course you would be able to do that simply by championing the policies of the Democratic Party, by reiterating this old, tired war on women, by identifying yourself with an Obama regime that still amongst Democrats has high ratings. He's still liked. Obama may be despised by the right wing, but he is certainly loved still by fellow Democrats. Joe Biden has a strong chance, if he jumps in, to win that nomination. And I know there is a lot of people out there surrounding him now saying, go Biden, go. And I must say, I am going to jump along and say Biden, for all his flaws, is a much better man, much better candidate, much better person than the candidates we have right now amongst in the Democratic Party. So I join that chorus. Go Biden, go.
The stories that matter, the issues that count. This is American Heartland with Dr. Grace. This is American Heartland with Dr. Grace.
Shut up, just shut up, shut up, shut up, just shut up, shut up, shut up, just shut up, shut up, just shut up, shut up, shut up, just shut up, shut up, shut up, just shut up, shut up, shut it up, just shut up, shut up.
Welcome back. This week, the collective Just Shut Up has got to go to the Fox News host Megyn Kelly. You will recall, if you've been listening to this show from the very beginning, that when Fox News changed its lineup and gave Megyn Kelly her news show, I said that I did not think in the long run that she would fare well. Well, her ratings are very high, but her performance in the debate was so biased that it led to a huge backlash, and now her credibility is in tatters. During her debate with Donald Trump, she basically was accusing him of being a misogynist by her line of questioning. And this week, she dug in her heels, refusing to apologize, even though she had mischaracterized much of what he had said. Roll it, Brittany.
I just got back from a weekend at the beach with my husband and my 3 kids. Did anything happen in the news while I was gone? Anything? Did I miss anything? You may have heard that there was a dust-up involving yours truly and presidential contender Donald Trump. Mr. Trump was upset with a question I asked him at the debate last week about his electability, and specifically comments he has made in the past about women. A few words on that. Apparently, Mr. Trump thought the question I asked was unfair and felt I was attacking him. I felt he was asked a tough but fair question. We agreed to disagree. Mr. Trump did interviews over the weekend that attacked me personally. I've decided not to respond. Mr. Trump is an interesting man who has captured the attention of the electorate. That's why he's leading in the polls. Trump, who is the front runner, will not apologize. And I certainly will not apologize for doing good journalism. So I'll continue doing my job without fear or favor. And Mr. Trump, I expect, will continue with what has been a successful campaign thus far. This is a tough business, and it's time now to move forward.
Megyn Kelly, really, you have shown yourself to be a complete and utter hypocrite. Your question, your line of question, it wasn't fair and tough. It was unfair and actually not tough because it didn't go to any of the key issues in this election. It was a sideshow. It was shoddy journalism. And the fans, your fans, the fans of Fox News spoke with a loud voice saying, you treated him unfairly. Even your boss, Roger Ailes, called the Donald and said, this is going to stop. We are going to treat you fairly from now on, meaning conceding they hadn't treated him fairly. What is terrible for Megyn Kelly is not just that she was exposed as a shoddy and unfair journalist, but also as a hypocrite. This is a woman who always uses her looks in every broadcast to advance herself. She is always flashing her body parts. And because there was so much attention brought on the use of derogatory language regarding women, a story emerged this week exposing the very language that Megyn Kelly has used about women, namely herself. On the Howard Stern show, she spoke about her breasts. She spoke about her husband's private parts. She spoke about their sex life. She spoke about their sex life during pregnancy. In other words, she used language about a woman herself far more derogatory than what she accused Donald Trump of doing on that debate stage. Furthermore, you can Google this. Check out a GQ spread of Megyn Kelly showing us her body parts posing in a very suggestive manner. This is not the kind of image that appeals to conservatives. This is not appealing even to feminists, even liberal feminists. She was basically willing to prostrate her body on the way up, willing to prostrate her language on the way up, willing to treat women, speak of women derogatorily on her way up the food chain. And when she became prominent and when her ratings were high, the power went to her head. And suddenly, this woman that had used her looks to advance herself decided she was going to stand up for women. And she decided to take a punch at Donald Trump. Instead of punching him, guess what? She knocked herself out because her credibility is in tatters. And as a journalist, all you have is your credibility. When that goes, the rest goes also. People will not tune in. So the big loser from the Fox News debate is Megyn Kelly. And you know what, Megyn? When you're on the losing side of an issue, you would be well advised to apologize. In fact, that's what Donald Trump said. She owes me an apology. Instead, she is pretending to be a tough and fair journalist, when in reality we know that she is not tough, she is not fair, and she is not a champion for women. Instead, quite the opposite. Megyn Kelly, just shut up.
Hey, let's get it now.
Well, you know, it looks like the Donald dominated the news this week and was a prominent part of our broadcast as well. There was a moment of levity in all this. And he went on a show and he basically said that Megyn Kelly, when she was attacking him on that debate stage, blood was coming out of her eyes and blood was coming out of her, quote unquote, wherever. Now, if you actually read that little snippet, if you read the words, you think, was he referring to Megyn Kelly's menstrual cycle? And that certainly would have been beyond the pale. However, when you listen to that particular clip, you realize that he was saying blood coming out of the eyes, blood coming out of whatever. It was almost unintelligible what he meant. Well, lots of people are convinced that he really meant menstrual cycle. And when I heard the clip, I thought, he was just kind of rambling as he always does, and the words flow faster than he thinks them through, and there really was no misogyny there. Now, Jimmy Fallon perhaps has had the last laugh because he has created a comedic sketch of how Donald Trump speaks that is going viral. This, by the way, is not for young ears. So if there are young ears in the car or at your home, you may want to turn the radio down for this particular snippet. Otherwise, listen.
Look, I know everyone's all up in arms about the comments I made about Megyn Kelly after last week's GOP debate, which, by the way, I won easily. I was fantastic. The ratings were huge. Anyway, yesterday I called Megyn Kelly to personally not apologize. When I said blood was coming out of her wherever, I obviously meant nose and ears. If you think I was talking about something else, you're a deviant. I was not referring to hormones or menstruation. Period. Anyone who thinks otherwise is a total deviant. It's amazing how the media loves to twist my words, viciously attack me. It happens all the time. Like last week when I said that my wife Melania had the best melons in the world. Of course I meant her honeydew melons, which, by the way, can't be beat. Only a deviant would think I was talking about her boobs. Or the other day when I said that Carly Fiorina had too much junk in the trunk. I was obviously talking about the amount of stuff she keeps in the back of her Hyundai Sonata. It's like a Costco back there. She has a case of those giant cans of Juicy Juice. You know, the ones you have to open with a can opener on both sides? I prefer juice drinks that don't come in a paint can, okay? Deviant. Or last month, when I said I'd love to have a foursome with Katy Perry, Taylor Swift, and Nicki Minaj, I was simply talking about golf. Which also explains why I said I'd love for them to watch my balls. Deviant. Deviant, okay? Or when I said that me and Gary Busey like to do it doggy style, I just meant that sometimes I'll toss a frisbee and he'll catch it in his mouth like a dog. And what else could that possibly mean? Deviant. Twisting my words. And finally, when I said I love Fat Tony's big greasy sausage and couldn't wait to get it in my mouth, how could you not know I was talking about my local butcher, Tony Esposito, and his quality meat products? Deviants. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to get back to the campaign trail and pound some bush. What? Deviants! Deviants! Deviants!
It was good this week, at least, to be able to laugh a little bit at this controversy that seemed to dominate so many of the early headlines. Well, my friends, what we are seeing is that at last the conservative media is backing down from their constant attacks on the Donald. And they are going to give him a fair hearing, it appears. They are at least going to allow him to speak and explain his policy positions. In some cases, what I've noticed is they're just going to start ignoring him. That's one of the biases that you may see going forward. But for the most part, as we saw with Sean Hannity, who got huge ratings with that Donald interview, more and more hosts are going to just sit down and ask him straight questions to see how he does. And that will be the true test of his character and of his policy vision for this country. You are listening to Dr. Grace, the editor of Politics and Culture at WorldTribune.com, and every week I do my best to uphold values that will never, ever die.
Well, if you ask me where I come from, here's what I tell everyone. I was born by God's dear grace in an extraordinary place where the stars and stripes and the eagle fly. It's a big old land with countless dreams.
The stories that matter, the issues that count. This is American Heartland with Dr. Grace.